Now, you may know GLP-1 receptor agonists by names like Ozempic, Wegovy, or semaglutide, and these medications continue to get a ton of attention for their use in weight loss, and for a valid reason. They work. They actually do result in weight loss, but there is much more to these medications that is important for people to understand besides just the end result of weight loss. Now, I ultimately decided to pass on promoting this other channel, but during this process, and because of requests from our audience, I thought it was finally time for us to create our own video that goes into the details of how these medications really work, their effectiveness, but also their potential short and long-term side effects, and more importantly, how people are really choosing to apply them to weight loss. Like, should everyone that is overweight consider using one of these medications for weight loss, or do you need to be much more selective about who should consider using them? Well, today, we're going to find out. I'm Jonathan Benyon with the Institute of Human Anatomy, and we're about to jump into some anatomical and physiological awesomeness. So first, let's make sense of some of the names, and then we can get into how the drug works, side effects, and who may want to consider taking it. Ozempic and Wegovy are different brand names for the same injectable drug, semaglutide. Ozempic is the lower dose version of semaglutide that has been FDA approved for type 2 diabetes, whereas Wegovy is the higher dose version of semaglutide that has been FDA approved for weight loss. So essentially, both are semaglutide at different doses and approved for different uses. But the important part of our discussion is that semaglutide belongs to a class of drugs called glucagon-like peptide 1 receptor agonists, or just simply referred to as GLP-1 receptor agonists. And there are multiple GLP-1 receptor agonists out there. It's just that semaglutide is one of the more well-known ones. But a receptor agonist is a drug that binds to certain cellular receptors throughout the body, and when it binds to these cellular receptors, it mimics the effects of a substance that is naturally produced by the body. And based on the name of these drugs, glucagon-like peptide 1 receptor agonists, it's probably not going to shock you that our body naturally produces the hormone glucagon-like peptide 1, or just GLP-1. So just to be clear, we have the drug, the GLP-1 receptor agonist, mimicking the naturally occurring GLP-1. But this naturally occurring hormone, GLP-1, is produced by cells called L cells that are found in the intestine, as well as produced by neurons within the nucleus of the tractus solitarius. That name isn't the most important part of this video, but it's kind of fun to say. However, what is important is that this nucleus of the tractus solitarius is located within the medulla oblongata of the brainstem, which is important because these drugs will affect the brain. But the take-home message is GLP-1 is naturally produced and secreted by cells in your intestine and in the brainstem in response to food, or in other words, when food enters your gut. And this hormone does a few important things. First, GLP-1 has an effect on the pancreas, which you can see here just behind the stomach. And it has an effect on two hormones that the pancreas secretes, insulin and glucagon. Now, insulin you have likely heard about, and insulin decreases blood sugar, or what are referred to as blood glucose levels. But again, blood glucose levels go down when insulin is released. Whereas glucagon has an opposing effect to insulin. Glucagon tells your liver to release stored glucose into the bloodstream during times between meals or when you haven't eaten for an extended period of time. So glucagon causes blood glucose levels to go up. But GLP-1 stimulates the pancreas to release insulin while inhibiting the release of glucagon. So therefore, GLP-1 has an overall effect of lowering blood glucose levels after a meal. GLP-1 also slows gastric emptying and gut motility, so food stays in your stomach longer, which helps you feel full longer. It also acts on the brain to reduce appetite. So now that we know how the naturally produced GLP-1 works, we can understand what the drug, the GLP-1 receptor agonist, is trying to accomplish. It's going to mimic the effects of the naturally produced GLP-1, which, as we just learned, was decreasing blood glucose levels, slowing gastric emptying, and even suppressing appetite in the brain. But mimic is probably too soft of a word because these drugs actually enhance the effects of the naturally produced GLP-1. Because here's the thing about the natural GLP-1 that's produced in your body. It doesn't last very long in your bloodstream. Or in other words, it has a very short half-life. If you haven't heard of half-life before, it's just referring to the time it takes for the concentration of a substance or chemical to decrease by half. And the half-life of the GLP-1 produced by your body is about 1 to 2 minutes. But one of the design characteristics that the pharmaceutical companies were trying to incorporate into these GLP-1 receptor agonist drugs was to increase their half-life so that they would last longer in the bloodstream, and they...
Whoa. But listen, if I...
Stop reading and start listening to the...
People used to sometimes think, will there ever be a pill or a drug that can just make you lose weight? And it's here.
There's the new Hollywood face that is very chiseled, of gaunt. They've appeared quite a lot on my social media feed.
I think the obvious one is probably Ozempic.
They're the drugs that so many of us seem to be taking. A lot of people say they've been life-changing for the better,
And now have a body that I've always dreamed of.
but they can come with a hefty price tag.
They sold kitchen items and furniture in their house in order to keep up payments.
I spent about £2,000 on the injections in total, but I've no idea how much that would have run to since the prices have gone up.
And a hidden psychological cost can be attached too.
There's an addiction to keep it going because it makes me feel in control.
So how do people safely come off these drugs that are hailed by so many as a miracle?
For me, it's more threatening to go back to what I used to feel like than to say, well, what happens if we're on this drug forever? Great. I love that.
We've been obsessed with diets for decades.
Over the years, the styles and shapes of the girls have changed quite a bit.
And it is. It's the Keep Fit craze hitting Kensington.
The rack used to be an instrument of torture. Stretches the vertebrae, tones up the muscles, and makes a girl feel marvelous. If they remember to switch off in time.
But recently, a new tool has completely changed the landscape. Weight loss injections, otherwise known as GLP-1s. They became the new way for Hollywood to shift weight quickly, with a long list of those willing to try it.
Can we just talk about Saxenda weight loss injections?
And searches for them grown and grown and grown. An estimated 1.5 million people are on weight loss injections in the UK. That's roughly 1 in 46, more than 2% of the population.
People is a huge number, and I suspect over time that's only going to increase. Now, I guess one of the key reasons that we see living with obesity, number of health impacts, whether it be some of the conditions like type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, increased risk of cancer. It's the second biggest risk factor for that. And I think that combination of health concern, as well as people's body image and confidence and the related mental health impacts there, it drives a lot of people to want to spend their own money to access care.
I think body weight still has an impact on our social currency. Previously, the obsession with body weight was largely aimed at women, but I definitely feel now that more men are interested in it. And I think part of that has to do with social media, part of it has to do
It's coming, just bear with me, guys. We will discuss what do I eat in a day while I'm using Ozempic or the GLP-1 Ozempic or Wegovy. So it's coming, just bear with me. Just technical issue here.
Hey GLP-1 plus size community. Before we jump into the podcast, please take the time to leave us a 5-star review on whatever audio platform you're listening to the podcast on. Share your story and how the podcast helped you. This will help us get referred up in the audio platform so that we can reach more people that need our help, our support, and guidance from our doctors. Help us get loud and change things. Are you interested in understanding GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, or Mounjaro? Then join us on the Plus Sides Cracking the Obesity Code, the groundbreaking podcast helping people change their lives one episode at a time. The Plus Sides podcast is a disruptor. We're breaking down barriers, smashing stereotypes, and sharing inspiring stories that'll leave you feeling informed and empowered. Join us every week to learn from doctors who are specialists around GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, and Mounjaro. They'll provide you with science and facts to validate these incredible stories. But that's not all. We'll also bring you the voices of the GLP-1 Mounjaro TikTok community, real people who face the challenges of obesity-related diseases and disorders and discovered the incredible plus sides of GLP-1 medications. Our episodes are filled with heartwarming stories, laughter, and moments of triumph. You'll connect with our amazing community members who are reclaiming their health and experiencing their fullest lives. Are you ready to embark on a journey of discovery and empowerment? Tune in to the Plus Sides Cracking the Obesity Code, and together we'll change the narrative around obesity and end the stigma. Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform and join our incredible community. Let's celebrate the plus sides of life together, because every story deserves to be heard. Every life deserves to shine, and everyone deserves access to expert knowledge and medication. The Plus Sides Podcast. You're not alone. It's not your fault. Hey everyone, before we dive in, I really want to share something personal with you. About, I want to say like 8 to 10 months ago, I was
I will post it tomorrow. Sorry, or by Monday. If you wanna come back on Monday, I will post this on Monday. There is a technical issue here, so I have to repost it on Monday.